Oh, you did? I noticed.
Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to start by voting to seal the executive session minutes from our previous executive session this evening. Do we have a vote to seal the minutes?
I'll make a motion to seal the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved 5-0. It is 7:31. We will start our Narragansett Town Council regular meeting, November 1st, 2021. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we have the disclosure of executive session votes from our 6:45 meeting this evening. We have a motion to enter executive session, motion by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, seconded by Councilor Drzezinski. Motion approved 4-0 with one absentee. And we have a motion to exit executive session and reconvene in open session. Motion by Councilor Cicilline Bonanno, seconded by Councilor Drzezinski. Motion approved 5-0. Okay, we're going to start off the night with our annual review of Town Manager Jim Tierney. Jim, if you could, actually, let me just back up. So this is a yearly review, typically done in closed session. However, this year we'll be doing it in open session. The Town Council will each go through and ask Jim any questions, make any comments, and just do kind of their standard review. And then the Town Manager will also obviously have a chance to speak as well. This is not an agenda item, so we will not be taking public comment during this portion of the meeting. However, we do have open forum, which is immediately after this review, and the public can, of course, comment or make any comments or remarks during that time if they feel like they'd like to do so. So why don't we get started? So Jim, if you don't mind coming up to the podium, and we're going to start by going around alphabetically. So Susan,
Can we,
if you-
actually, Jesse, could we actually give Jim a chance to speak first, just to go over his accomplishments and just so that we kind of have a background?
Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
Council President, would you mind if I sat over there while I give this to address the council? Yes, but so I face the public as well. Is that okay?
Well, I think it's the council doing the review.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bear with me. This is a once-in-a-year item. First of all, good evening, Town Council President Pugh, President Pro Tem Cicilline Bonanno, Council members Eva Drzezinski, Deb Kopak, and Patrick Murray. Additionally, hello to all our guests who are here this evening. First of all, I would like to tell everyone on the council and the people in our community that I love this job. I pour my heart into it, and I love serving the town. Those who know me know that I eat it up a little bit too much, maybe with some pasta, but I do. I did ask for a public evaluation, and I thank you for that. I'd like to take this time to highlight some of the achievements of our staff and myself during a difficult time in government. Remember, I manage, I do not govern, and I, like much of our staff, manage the town very well. My talking points will simply focus on the self-assessment using the form that the Town Council recommended for format. So I'll get right into it. The first question was, the town manager maintain a standard of respect for department heads' abilities and encourage their initiative? Does he challenge them to perform at the highest level? Absolutely. The council is well aware of what the full-time members of the town are tasked with, and they seem to do a great job. Publicly, I acknowledge them with the press and in communications to the town council and in person. I requested of the town council to award a wellness bonus to members of the senior management team, which is to promote wellness and promote their value, as in some of the other unions in town have. I've often spoken to the town council and members of the public about the department heads' full-time duties and responsibilities, and to please be patient and cognizant of the priorities in support of our staff. I meet with the staff frequently, and most of them daily. The department heads put in long hours. They do a fantastic job at managing their time to accomplish a wide variety of tasks. The town's fortunate to have the department heads that we have. They're highly knowledgeable and responsive, and some of them are here this evening. I listen to staff, and I truly respect them. I've worked in government a long time. I know what it's like to be ignored when you're in a position. Shortly after I started, I was advised of poor working conditions in 2 of our offices and promptly corrected them. The town clerk's office frequently had standing water reportedly for many years, where water would just sit there after a storm or when we had a thaw, with loud drying fans blowing during the day while they worked. A similar issue in finance evolved when they had mold and moisture. Both were promptly corrected. Does a town manager inspire others to succeed? Does he actively promote efficiency in operations? Does he demonstrate a regard for personal ethics? Is he a person of integrity? The answer is yes. I've always pushed internal promotions and hirings of qualified candidates over external hires. It's great for morale, provides upward mobility, and it recognizes our staff's achievements and abilities. The senior management team and I have supported and pushed for budgeting for professional training opportunities. Examples of this are the town clerk's office, the IT department, the police department, the fire department, the building officials, and the Department of Public Works. I may have missed some. Training is an important job component that improves quality and efficiency. Efficiency in operations. The town had a vacancy in the building inspector's office. We had trouble filling a position. We were able to get an internal candidate from DPW when our building official met with DPW and the union, and it was a wonderful opportunity for an employee to move over to a job that he wanted and he was qualified for. Efficiency in operations. When our building official retired, we had difficulty locating a candidate. We were without one for quite a while. I negotiated an agreement with the State Building Commissioner to handle our building official duties until we fill the spot. This arrangement saved the taxpayers money while providing essential services. I'll get into it later, but that particular savings was $49,000. Senior management team and 2 labor unions agreed not to take any salary increases in fiscal '21. They're owed a debt of gratitude for that. I followed suit and did not request an increase for myself, even following an overwhelmingly positive performance evaluation last year. The council did extend my contract for another year as a result of that evaluation. During COVID, our senior management team, together with myself, in an effort to protect our staff and public, we expeditiously took action to set up town hall and all town facilities to make them safer. We're seeking reimbursement from FEMA for these expenses now. I'll get into that a little bit later as well. Does he understand the laws and ordinances of the town and cause them to be fairly enforced? Yes. I consult with the solicitor when it's appropriate or at the direction of the council. I have extensive experience interpreting laws, rules, ordinances, and CBAs. Negotiated 3 labor agreements since I've been here, the most recent one being the fire department with town council members Susan Cicilline-Bonanno and Deb Kopak. We reached a good deal. It was a good cooperative effort between the union and the town. The Woodruff Avenue light was a significant topic in town, why we weren't repairing it and why it kept being down. After digging deep into some of our ordinances, we found a 2008 ordinance that required the abutting property owners to pay for that. At the time, the replacement was approximately $63,000 and change, and another $59.50 that were recovered for a total of almost $70,000 that the town did not have to cough up for that. Does a manager properly handle his administrative duties? Yes. As examples, simple: COVID, budget, complaints, union negotiations. During COVID, we were all tasked with providing our regular town services, yet we were faced with our COVID response, and we, all the SMT, worked together along with every single employee for the continuity of operations during the pandemic, and it continues today. If I have not handled any of my administrative duties properly, nothing significant has been brought to my attention in the last 2 years and 2 months. Does the town manager work well with the business community while protecting the town's interest? Does he work well to increase the town's tax base through economic development? I forwarded all grant and PPP loan information as it was channeled to us through the Chamber of Commerce for distribution to the business community. Held Zoom meetings, in-person meetings with local businesses during COVID, one with the assistance of the Chamber. Obtained approximately $69,000 for the Take It Outside grant money from the state to allow our businesses to expand their exterior dining capabilities during COVID, more than many similar-sized communities. And our staff distributed those materials to businesses personally. We worked with businesses to try to keep them open so that they would earn, employ people, and the town would continue to get the food and beverage and room tax. I worked with State Representative McEntee on the expansion of the outdoor dining and Take It Outside initiative, which is now in place until April 22nd. Does the town manager cooperate cordially with neighboring communities, state officials, state associations, and citizens while looking after the interests of Narragansett? Absolutely. Shortly after I came in, an attorney that lives in the north end of town brought me a bottle of water, and it looked like mud. Apparently, it had been an issue that had been going on off and on for years up in the north end. Our engineering department met with North Kingstown, and they set up a corrective action plan, and to date, I haven't heard any additional complaints about that. We've worked collaboratively with North Kingstown, South Kingstown, Charlestown, Richmond, Rima, with COVID test and vaccine sites. The town of South Kingstown requested me to participate in the selection process for their chief, our neighboring community. I brought on Chief Corrigan with me to also participate in that process. We work collaboratively with South Kingstown on shared senior services, and now that'll be expanding to other communities like North Kingstown through St. Elizabeth's, who will be taking over the elder care programs for us. We collaborate with South Kingstown with the shared pound services on Asa Pound Road. Shared wastewater, URI, South Kingstown. Statewide level, I was elected by my colleagues to be the president of the Rhode Island City and Town Managers Association and a vice president of the League of Cities and Towns. The governor's office appointed me to a task force and some subcommittees, the COVID Community Task Force, the COVID Opening Businesses Safely Group, and the COVID-19 Advisory Group 2.0, as they call it. Communicated regularly during that period of time with the Chamber to keep them appraised of all the grants and the PPP, and continued to work with them and Take It Outside. Recently, members of the town staff and the community participated in an organized 9/11 gathering of remembrance that highlighted not only our first responders, but all of those who were lost. A true community event that saw participants working together and then gather and participate in the event. The participants included the town council, the Narragansett Police, the Narragansett Fire Department, the South Kingstown Police, the Coast Guard Point Judith, Air National Guard, Boy Scouts from New York, the Chamber, state elected officials, and even our own Tom Warren, a retired Providence chief who was on the grounds at 9/11, and many are our residents and visitors. A truly cooperative effort that brought the community together for a little while. South Kingstown, Narragansett, Charlestown, and NK are working together on the Community Southern Rhode Island 4-minute AED project, which the program seeks to make AEDs more available to the public with a very intricate system that may save lives. We've been working on this for a while through the fire department. Does the town manager work well with the city council in making sure there's adequate information available prior to meetings? Is he willing to meet with council members to deal with individual problems and issues? I certainly believe so. Many, many phone calls, thousands of email exchanges, weekend updates, and more if the issues are timely. Presentations as requested by the council, or if I bring them to their attention, I think one is needed, I seek their advice and consent to do it. I've met with the TC members to discuss many concerns: Galilee, state parks, library, labor contracts, budget. I'm available to the town council at the drop of a hat. We all fully realize that this job is not 9 to 5. I knew it when I took it. I knew it in the other jobs that I had. It requires extra hours. And to the members of the public, that goes for the town council too. They put in a lot more hours than that you just see in these meetings. I know that, and I think they knew coming into it, it was too. But I want the TC to know an actual number. Jesse, I put a little guessing game with Jesse, but he was pretty close. I know it's over 40-hour-a-week job. I get that. I have no problem with that. But since I've taken the job, I've logged over 107 extra 8-hour days during the period. It sounds like a number, but it's a lot of time, and I don't regret it. You need to do it to get the job done. My attendance at every town council meeting I've been present, and each direction item that I've been given to by the council has either been completed or remains in progress, with one of them coming down your pike this week for the parking. Does the town manager relate to citizen complaints and appropriate involvement and level of concern? Does he review citizen complaints and attempt to resolve them? Yes, I frequently visit sites of most complaints to assess and communicate with the complainants how to resolve the issues, and I report back to the complainant. I believe in a mission statement from a previous job that says total community service. Everyone is important as the next when they call it in. To them, it's important, so you must treat it like that. I respond to the citizens, and I look for creative solutions if there's no cookie-cutter solution. Examples, we had issues with Ocean Road noise, the brown water from North Kingstown. Recently had a call from an elderly woman that took a fall. It was a violation of the building code. Immediately, a notice of violation was issued, and the area was secured to make it more safe. On a more humorous note, on a Sunday over a year ago, I responded to the causeway in Bonnet of a report of devastation. There were ducks that had been run over in the road, and the children were getting upset. I went over there with a snow shovel on a Sunday because I couldn't find anybody else to go do it. There are pictures, I believe. Does the town manager ensure the budget is prepared and executed in a manner approved by the city council? Does he ensure city monies are managed properly? Yes. We submitted a town budget, fiscal 21, that was basically level funding from the previous year as we prepared for COVID to stay with us for a while. It was a 0.32% increase, and when you plugged in the labor savings, it was basically a level funding. Fiscal 22, we saw a moderate increase at 2.86%. 2 labor contracts were negotiated for fiscal 21, showing a savings of $229,000. Those 2 labor unions, 1033 and Council 94, again, I'll state it, they deserve a debt of gratitude for that. The MOU that was negotiated with the State Buildings Official's Office saved the town $49,000. Delaying a community development position during the peak of COVID saved the town nearly $60,000. The Woodruff Avenue signal, $69,000 and change. We obtained thousands of dollars of quality office furniture at no cost to the town through networking and saved budget funds for office furniture. We estimate it to be about $10,000. Although by contract, by employment agreement, I'm authorized to attend the ICMA annual conference if budgeted. I did not go to any of them, all 3 of them. One was virtual. I assume that's got to be close to $10,000 or at least several $1,000s. Negotiated with Council 94 to not contest the replacement of a full-time clerk in the tax collection office. Savings, $176,000 to date. During the peak of COVID, when the police department didn't have a full established list, but yet they had they still had a vacancy, to date, $144,000 in savings. We've tracked all our COVID expenses meticulously from the start, and the senior management team that does that for each of their departments should be credited. So far, we've submitted $450,000 for FEMA reimbursement, and so far we've received $338,000 back. Our staff has done a great job tracking this, and finance has been working tirelessly on the reimbursement. Grants. In the last 2 years, the town has received, through application from SMT members in collaboration with the council and with the town manager, we've received $8.5 million in grants in the last 2 years, with the cost to the taxpayer currently under $65,000. Worked with Deb Kopak and Susan Cicilline-Bonanno on the fire contract. Worked well together with everyone and the fire union to finally settle their contract, leaving no labor issues in town right now. We haven't had any at all. The savings to the taxpayer that I've just mentioned, if you're trying to add it up, is over $800,000. On top of COVID, which consumed all of our time, we continued to conduct all regular town business. We did much of it with newly promoted staff. I've only been in the job 2 years and 2 months. but we did it with newly promoted staff. We had a new clerk, a new deputy clerk, an assessor, new deputy assessor, new assistant building inspector, controller, Parks and Rec director. Every one of them was an internal qualified promotion. We poached the building official from South Kingstown, and I'm glad we did. He's doing a great job. But these people were all fairly new in the job during a period when I've only been in here, like I said, 2 years and change, and these people have been there a short time. When it's all said and done, it's an unaudited surplus. But we so carefully budgeted during COVID we perhaps overestimated what our revenue loss may have been, but we didn't know how long this was going to last. It's the only time it's happened in 100 years. We're looking at an unaudited surplus number of well over $2.5 million. Well over 2.5. I'm being conservative. I'd like to say thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I truly enjoy serving this town, and I love this job, and we have fantastic staff, from the part-timer right up to all the department heads. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Jim, I know you've been standing for a while. It's up to you. Now that we're going to be doing most of the talking, you can stand there if you want. If you want to take a seat, that's fine too. So up to you. All right, Susan, you want to get started?
So most of my questions you answered, but I just have one that I'm just curious about. 3 of my top priorities in this term have been improving the infrastructure, completing the library project, and creating solutions for the parking challenges that we have in the town. Can you share how your leadership on the library project, on the infrastructure, and on the challenges of the parking, some of your leadership initiatives on how you plan to combat those issues and solve them?
Sure, I'll go in reverse order. The parking situation, it pops up all over town. There's different issues that appear on the agenda for different parts of town. Most recently, I was tasked by the council to revisit the 2011 traffic study, meet with our staff, and to come back with updates and recommendations to the council. It's an email that I sent to all of you on Friday. That should be completed this week. It was told to be completed for the 2022 season. That should be done this week.
So, Jim, was that a parking study, or is that, I'm just trying to figure, the one for Boone Street and?
Boone and the Pier area.
Yes, so you had a committee that you got together and kind of worked on some of those issues?
Community development, the police department,
Okay.
myself, yes.
Thank you.
And the next step would be to first give the council the copy of the final report, but it's going to be scheduled for the public, for the planning board, as it was directed, that it goes before the planning board, and the recommendations will then come before the council. But the council will have the report once it's completed, and you'll have that by this week.
Okay.
That's that one.
Okay, thanks.
And as far as the road bond goes, and yes, that's a priority for everyone in town. I agree with you. We've been working with DPW on it. As you know, I notified the council a short time ago about what was left in the bond and how we could not go out to bond for the full amount that's left until next year. We could go in partial after January 1st, and we will be recommending to the council that you do issue part of that bond so we can continue with some of the road improvements in town.
And that 5.6?
5.6, that's correct. And we have Phase 3 roads listed. We certainly understand that those priorities change as months go by, weather deteriorates roads differently, and we'll handle it accordingly. But right now, Phase 3 is in place. There's a small amount of money left that is not encumbered yet. I believe it's about $147,000, I told you folks. But we'll continue. We'll finish what's encumbered. We'll probably spend the 147, and then hopefully the council will reissue so that we can get on with more. And also along the lines with the roads, as we make the public presentations or the council conducts work sessions on the American Rescue Plan Act, this could also come into play as well. We're not prepared to go forward with that with a public meeting yet, but we will be shortly. And as far as the library goes, I had a recent conversation with Council President Pugh. I think we are moving along. I think the town is moving along on it now. We have a good collaborative effort between representatives from the council. We have 3 staff members from the town, and with the help of David Ferrara, bond counsel, who's been extremely helpful in helping us navigate this, and members of the library board and some of their assistants or associates that are helping us. And it's moving along, as you know, and the RFP for the owner's representative is almost completed. And you've been a part of it as well in all those meetings, so you know the progress of that.
Thank you. Well, you're going to keep going.
And what I would say to that, the one thing I don't think I answered, with my leadership is that I work with these people on a regular basis. I point them in the direction I need them to go. They're very responsive. I don't have to hold their hand. They get back to me on the information, and they get it done. And they're getting it done. Thank you.
Thanks, Susan. All right, we're going to go to Eva, alphabetically.
Thanks. All right. Yeah. Okay, well, I don't have any questions, but I do have some comments that I just wanted to make. I know it's a difficult job being town manager, and I know you love it, and we're lucky that you do. And one of the things I do is I observe people, I observe actions, and I think actions speak louder than words. They really do speak volumes. And just some of my experiences with you, I mean, I've only been a council member since this past November, so I've really only dealt with you since November. What I can say is that you're very receptive. I know even today, as an example, I was preparing for the council meeting. I had some last-minute questions, and during my lunch break, I was emailing Jim, and within like minutes or an hour, like he answered all my questions and provided me with the information I needed for today. So I've also asked Jim in the past, like I've had neighbors come up to me and say, oh, there's a lot of speeding, and I've addressed it with him, and he's been very, he took care of it right away, or to the point where my neighbors were like, wow, this is great that, he had Chief have a traffic survey done there and just for the speeding, and so that was wonderful. To be able to have that kind of relationship and be able to have that kind of just going through it and getting it done, and I appreciate that. One of the other things I appreciate about Jim is that he's very cool, calm, and collected. In a lot of situations that I observed him in, I don't think I would have been, so I really appreciate his demeanor, and I know a lot of the I've talked to a lot of our residents. They really do they actually love Jim. They've said that he's doing a great job, and they really appreciate everything he's doing for the town. And, it speaks volumes when he's asked to be on these, in these positions, these leadership positions. It really showcases the caliber of person that he is and the respect that he has from a lot of his peers, and so I think that's really great to highlight that. And I think we need consistency in our town manager. We need somebody who's always there. I think it's important that Jim stays on for years to come, because we've had a lot of turnover in staff, and we just want to make sure that we have that consistency. And one of the things too, I've talked to staff, and they really enjoy him. They think he's great. I think they like his humor. I like his humor too. So I just wanted to highlight some of those things, and I really think that the town is really lucky to have you, and I really look forward to continuing to work with you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks,
I don't
Eva.
think I can get any redder than I normally am, but
Council President, we have public hearing at 8 o'clock.
Right, yep, okay. It's just a quick scheduling. So Jim, we'll do that, and we'll get back to this. Thank you, Janet. All right, so we have a scheduling of a public hearing. So do we have a motion to schedule a public hearing on an application from NGP 2 LLC to amend Chapter 731 of the Code of Ordinances of the Town of Narragansett, Rhode Island, entitled Zoning, proposing amendment section 2.2, definitions, and section 6, zone regulations to include mini warehouse. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All right, motion by Susan, second by Eva. All right, so the proposed date on this would be January 4th, 2022 at 8 p.m. So our
Is that a regular meeting?
regular meeting, yep,
Yep.
first meeting of the year. And again, this is just a schedule. Any questions or comments from the council?
Nope.
Okay, anyone from the public wishing to speak? There will be, yep. It is, right, thank you. Okay, anyone else from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Next, we have a motion to refer to the planning board for recommendation.
I'll make the motion to refer it to the planning board.
A second.
All right, discussion? Anyone? Nope. Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Jim, ready to go? All right. All right, so Eva, I think you finished up, right?
I'm done. Thank you.
All right, so Deb.
Hi, Jim.
Hi, Deb.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
I just wanted to say that, I'll tell a funny story. When, I think the first initial engagement I had with Jim was when I called him after this election was finished to say that there was a problem with the sidewalk in front of my house. And I had just fallen down, and because it was really crappy. And of course, it's a state road, so there wasn't too much Narragansett could do about it. But Jim did speak to somebody. They came. They at least filled in the spot that where I fell, and that was really helpful. So that was my first initiation, and it was a good one. I think that Jim, I mean, he does work a lot of hours, you know, he sends us emails all weekend long. He is available most of the time, or all the time, when there are issues with weather, with, you know, with things that are going on around the town, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that kind of hard work. I've done that myself in my life, and it's not easy to interrupt whatever you might be doing to, you know, to do your job sort of off hours. So I appreciate that immensely. And I do want to also give a shout out to your staff, because they have always been, you know, remarkably available and forthcoming. I did something that I guess doesn't normally happen when I first got this position, which was to meet with them all individually. And it was one of the best things I ever did, because I have such a keener understanding, although not a full understanding of what everybody does, but I certainly understand the kind of work that has to be done on a regular basis, and it was phenomenally helpful to me. I think, you know, a good recognition of a leader is someone who doesn't always know the answers, and but it strives always to find them, and I find that that is often the case with Jim, and that's very helpful. And the other thing about finding an answer is he does it usually pretty quickly, so that's kind of good. I have referred citizen, you know, issues and problems and concerns to him based on emails that I've received or calls that I've received from people, and I always get, you know, good responses, fast responses, and often other department heads are engaged, and I appreciate that immensely, because I do like to make sure that I get back to people when they ask for support. I did receive, this was interesting, not too long ago, I contacted Jim to meet with him about outstanding issues that we had referred to him over the course of several months. And it was a fascinating conversation, because this is common, it happens, where, you know, someone is actually doing all the work, but sometimes doesn't quite get around to telling us what's happened. And so I recommended that we do that on a regular basis, and Jim does do that on a regular basis, but more importantly, he had done lots of work on many of those issues, including some of the ones that Susan referenced before. And the only one that I really would like to make sure that we stay on top of is the community choice aggregator issue with electricity. And I know that's not entirely, up to you. We have to wait on the folks that we worked with, but that's one that's very important to me. So I think that's just something I wanted to mention to you. Other than that, I have no real questions or issues at this time. I appreciate all the work that you do. I personally appreciate your concern when my husband had a medical issue at the beginning of this term, which was not an easy thing to do in the middle of COVID, and I appreciate the fact that you were sensitive to that on my behalf. So thank you. And I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Deb.
Thank you.
Patrick.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to thank Jim for his management of the town. When he was hired less than 3 years ago, he hit the ground running. He didn't mention that he also overseed the rehab of this building. It was major landscaping. He fixed a leak that was in the clerk's office that's been around for, I don't know, a couple hundred years. Totally rehabbed several of the office space, new carpet. I mean, it was a major, rehab interior and new roof. So there's a lot to do there and moving around staff. So that was a project there. But I'm very happy with his leadership in this town. Works well with the staff, and I just hope he continues to be our current town manager. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you. Thank all of you.
Thank you, Patrick. All right, I'll go last here. All right, so the thing about performance reviews, job reviews, is that it's the best opportunity, I think, to provide feedback and have honest dialogue and an honest conversation about how well things have gone and also areas that could be improved, because no matter who you are, no matter what your job is, nobody's perfect and everybody strives to do better and to be better. And I think that as a professional, we all feel that way. And I know you do, and you've told me that you want to have this job basically forever. Or as long as you're working, you want to be the town manager of Narragansett. So I know you want to be the best at it and to continue to get better at it. So I'm going to be as honest as possible. Even though this is a public environment, I'm going to pretend there's nobody in this room and just speak to you, because I think that's the point of the evaluation. But it is mostly positive, so I'll tell you that. So let me start with that. I think maybe this is the most important thing, is that from everything I know and from everyone I talk to that works here, town staff likes you and they respect you. And I think it all kind of starts there, and that's huge. As you mentioned, you definitely have met, all the well-known and standard requirements of a town manager, and you've done that, and you've met those standards throughout your term here, throughout your stint here, and you've done that during COVID, which is, even a whole other thing. It's a tough time for everyone, a time when a lot of people in charge of companies, in charge of municipalities didn't really know what to do, because everyone's kind of playing it by ear, and you got through it well. So, I appreciate that. For the day-to-day things, for the way that we interact with you on the council, you send the weekly updates at the end of the week. I know I appreciate that. It's just a great way to kind of have a general understanding of what's going on, because we all talk to so many different residents. This keeps us kind of up to date on all the important activity in town. You send those like clockwork every Friday, and if there's anything that's even more urgent, you send those throughout the week as well. So that's great. You are always accessible and available to the council. So whether that's on the weekend, at night, whenever, I think you have 3 different phones, and I always call the wrong one, but I always get you, and that's...
Two. Please don't tell everybody I have 3 phones.
Oh, yeah, right, 2, yeah, that's right. No, 2. I think I call the office sometimes too, or talk to Patty. and then you're able to balance the different personalities, specifically on the council. Because I can't speak to the day-to-day with staff other than what they tell me, because we are not full-time staff. So I do know that you balance the personalities on the council very well, and that's a skill, and you have that. And then something that you had mentioned earlier was your willingness to, whenever we ask to meet with council members and to listen to whatever ideas we might have a meeting with us, pull a resident in, and work through the idea to help us move it, if we're gonna move it in a direction, help us get it ready for maybe a future council meeting or whatever, and just kind of be available and open to help us do our jobs in preparation for our meetings. But then I don't want to forget your biggest achievement, which is that Woodruff Avenue light early on, but I think that did make probably the most residents happy, as far as I know, of all projects. And I only have a few things that I think are not, I don't know how to word it, completely positive. And they're not terrible things, but they're just things that, again, we wanna help you be better at what you do. And you do a great job. I think we've all said that. I think everyone agrees. But there's just, and one thing actually we did talk about, and you already showed improvement, and that was, we had a discussion about the library project. I wanted to make sure we were on the same page about making sure this moves forward. Because you have a council that's totally in favor of it. You had bond questions that passed again. That issue is settled, and at this point, the project's gonna happen, and we need a leader to make sure that it gets done. And it was a great discussion, and I think you made the small adjustments that we talked about, and you're steering it in the direction it needs to go. So that's, wonderful that we had a discussion and the little tweak was made, and it's working. I would say another issue in town that I would like to see that kind of same direction or same approach would be the 3-student ordinance and the 4 unrelated in terms of the enforcement of it. So, the council makes policy, we vote, we make policy, but we don't do the day-to-day work because we can't, because we have actual, our regular jobs. Once that vote is taken and a direction is given, then it's up to you and staff to make sure that it's pushed forward. So the enforcement of those 2 ordinances, I think a lot of people in town are expecting that to be enforced. And so I guess, again, if we're just kind of going back and forth, what are your thoughts on the approach to take to make sure that gets enforced?
Myself, building official Wayne Pimentel, and Steve Marcella, and James have met our solicitor to discuss this. As the council knows, any leases that were signed prior to the official adoption, the first one was null and void, but any leases that were signed prior to the adoption of the 3-student, there's really nothing we can do right now.
Right.
But we are addressing them as complaint-driven at this point. Police, fire, neighbors. The police go to the house for disturbance. They see that it's a rental. They check the rental registration. They notify the building official's office, and we'll follow through from there. I believe, last I checked, I think we had about 6 complaints right now. But yeah, we're still working on how to proceed with it. But right now, we're moving forward with it as a complaint-driven process. It's difficult. You can't have the police knocking at people's doors asking for IDs. It really has to be handled by the building official with the input of the police, for other first responders who go there, EMS, fire. And that's how we're handling it right now. But we're also preparing how to go forward when these leases start to expire and how we're going to handle that. We haven't finalized that yet, but that will still be complaint-driven. But as far as what flyers that would go out to the rental registration people again, this year when we sent the rental registration forms out, we notified each resident of each landlord of the 3-student and the for unrelated, which frequently get confused by people in the community. They're two separate ordinances, but we are informing them of that. And
How is that happening? How are you informing them?
we sent when they sent the rental registration notices out a couple of weeks ago, included in that was an informational page describing, providing what the 3-student ordinance was, what the four unrelated ordinance was, and that they're both active. And there's also a separate section in there about permanent signage that was put on some of the rental properties as being a violation of our building code.
Right. And actually, I'll follow up with you. I'd like to see that, the notification, just to see how kind of like clear it is.
I can get that for you before you leave tonight.
Oh, you got it? Okay. We're still doing the notarized signature on the rental registration form,
Rental
right?
registration, yes.
Right. Okay. That makes sense. But yeah, I mean, that was kind of the only thing that you and I had talked about where we were trying to just, I wanted to make it as clear as possible to you that once the council is done with our meeting, you're in charge. Like the direction is given and we're not going to micromanage you. We trust you to take it and implement and work on whatever projects have been approved. And you're empowered, you're really empowered to have that responsibility. So that's all. But go ahead.
I appreciate that. And what I'd like to say to the council is the entire council, both as a body and as individuals, having worked in management positions for years with up to 700+ employees, if you see something, it doesn't have to be council initiated. If there's something, you have an idea, you want to pitch it, just call me up. Or if you'd like something, you have a better suggestion to do something, just like every other, you're governing body, but your taxpayers, as the body, you're my boss, you have any ideas, just come to me, call me up. I'll listen. I mean, that's what we do. That's what you guys do.
Well, thank you, Jim, and thank you again for the work. I know it's not always easy, and I know the amount of time that you spend, so.
I appreciate it, and I meant it. I love it.
All right. All right, so we are going to move to open forum, public comment. So anyone who would like to speak on any items not on the agenda, as agenda items, feel free to do that now. When you come up, please state your full name and address, and also please keep your comments to 3 minutes. We'll start with Mr. Vangermesh. Oh, Richard, let's just make sure the mic's on.
Yes, my name is Richard Vangermesh, and I live at 55 Osceola, and in my other life, I was a professor of accounting and actually taught a course once in government accounting. I realized there is no greater sedative than the topic of government accounting. It beats a sleeping pill, and I imagine most of you will be asleep after I end in 2 minutes. But government accounting, government management, government law, government regs must dance to the same tune. It isn't quite the same in the private sector. There's a little more play. Last meeting, I mentioned our tune might be out of step in the issue of the sale of movable property, trucks, fire trucks, etc. I realize that the public referendum issue is a little bit of a wild card thrown in here, but I hope we can get this tune in step by having an agenda item on this topic relatively soon so we can figure out the most effective strategy to help us basically move our movable excess property.
Thank you. Representative McAtee?
Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, members of the council. My name is...
Sorry, Carol. Can you just state your full name and
Oh,
address?
yes. Representative Carol Hagan McEntee. My address, District 33. My address is 70B Broad Rock Road in Wakefield. I'm here to speak on behalf of in favor of the town manager, and I'm glad to see that everyone else feels pretty much the same. I've been in this position for 6 years, and I believe you've had 4 or 5, maybe 6 different town managers. And Jim has showed, my rating of him is excellent. He's an excellent leader, he's dedicated, he's accessible, he's effective. I could sing his praises quite a bit. But when I hear you say he's been sitting in this job for 2 years and 2 months, 19 months of that we have been in a pandemic. We've all had to reinvent ourselves, and Jim did it almost immediately. He stepped to the plate, he cut to the chase, safety was immediate. We got the tests, we got the vaccines, the people who were homebound. They would call me, I would call him, how are we gonna implement all of this? He had to work with the state quite a bit to get all this done. Nobody was left stranded. And when I tell you that, it would break my heart to hear from some of these people. And he would either get the fire chief over there or someone from the police department, we would get them a ride, he would get them a vaccine. So everybody got what they needed. The small business in this town couldn't have a better friend than him. He knows them all. He helped enormously in how to figure out the problems and how to get them back to business. And we know they were hit the hardest of the small businesses in this town and all towns, especially restaurants and lounges. They were really hurt. And he stepped to the plate right away. We all did, and made sure they could try to find a way to get back in business, which they're still struggling with, as we know. Roads, he was always right there when there was something wrong with the road in Bonnet Shores with the dust. You forgot that one, Jim. You came down and made sure that they got that road paved because of the babies on that road that couldn't be out in the yard. The snow for the 98-year-old woman that you came down and you made sure that ice got away from in front of her house. The ducks, he already told you about the ducks. I could go on, but RIPTA, we had a woman that was calling me about a ride with RIPTA who has difficulty with transportation because she has vision, she's visually impaired. And he said, he got me right in contact with RIPTA. We're trying to work something out for her. And the last thing we want is her not to be able to go to work every day. So I'm just glad to see that you all feel the same, and I think we're lucky to have him, and he's gotten us through a lot, and whatever didn't get done in the past 19 months, I think every town suffers from, because we had to change our focus, and we did that here, and he did an excellent job of making sure that we all changed our focus to get through the pandemic. But I think you can't go wrong with Jim Tanny. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Jim.
Stanley.
Stan Wojcicki, 1044 Boston Neck Road. When I was in the Army, you'd think the officer just tells the sergeants what to do, huh? No, he listens to the staff, and that's what I love right here. He's not dictatorial. He listens and cooperates with his staff and all those around him. That's such a plus right there, because, by being so positive, then they do their jobs in a more efficient and positive manner. So we've got to keep him for that. And then you look at, he paid attention to the $70,000 light, then there's a $40,000, $60,000. He pays attention to even the small items in the money aspect. So he's watching our money. That's kind of nice to hear. I didn't realize he kept the salaries down on a number of people, helping the taxpayers. That was really good. then I didn't realize the surplus is close to that 2.5 million. So he's not just trying to blow money. The idea that he's paying attention to the money, of course, really makes me happy. You understand that? So that's the second driver. The fact that I'm hoping that he stays there forever also, because we don't want to start having to retrain another manager somewhere to some different council or whatever. This fellow obviously he's on target, he's good with people, he's good with money. The small thing on the police, the foreign leader than that's a legal problem. I don't know if we can hand him the responsibility of a legal problem, a legal definition or enforcement. Yeah, he's got to give that down to the police, and a lawyer and the police got to deal with the legal and enforcement problems. Now, he's in charge, and he can step on him as much as he can to try them to come to a solution that's effective. But I really don't see that as a totally on his bag of things to do, other than staying with him to try and find the legal solution and the enforcement solution. And like I said, I always thought the enforcement solution should have been a $5,000 noise ordinance, $500 fee, $500 fine, and a $4,500 enforcement fee. A $4,500 enforcement fee to pay for added police on the weekends or those special days like we had the Batmobile. Those special days, hire a number of state police, and you will take it out of the fines that you get, fines and fees. That's what I feel is the solution on that to help them out. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. Dr. Alba?
Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I want to thank all of you and thank our town manager for doing outstanding work. He actually reminds me of Maury, who's been here, who was here, a great town manager. We actually have the library dedicated. I hope maybe we can have maybe a wing or some part of the new library dedicated in honor of this town manager. I think Stan had a valid point in regards to he's like the quarterback, and we have to, and I know, President Pugh, you brought out a valid point. You put the policy in place, and you're saying, okay, now it's up to you to go forward, and that's a valid point as well. But we also have to give the coach, Belichick, speaking with Kraft, we got to empower him. So if he needs to hire someone to implement, enforce, we have to give him the resources. We can't just say he's not American. If he doesn't have the resources to be able to implement a policy that you're putting in place, it's not going to happen. Same thing with the library. If we don't have the monies to have the thing built according to scale as of now, he can't draw, get something from nothing. So he can only do the best he can in regards to the amount of monies we have, the bond monies that we have, and if costs have gone up, well, we can't say, well, to town manager, we can't fault him at all for, he could work at the design, work with the engineers, work with the architects, saying, okay, you know what, we might not need to have the hardwoods, but we could have the type of flooring, which is just going to be a floating floor, so to speak. So he can make adjustments that way, but I think he's doing a wonderful job, and I want to thank all of you for all of your support for our town manager, and we'll be blessed to have him for as long as he wants to work here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Please state your full name and address.
Joseph Paglia, 39 Thayer Ave, Narragansett, Rhode Island. Members of the council, thank you for hearing me tonight. So my story is, during COVID, which we're still in, and the pandemic, we had some issues with Department of DBR, Business Regulations. So what they would do, which I'm sure the members of the council know, that the state would send inspectors out to the restaurants. The only problem is with that is we had an inspector come out, say fix fix this, get some plexiglass up here, hand stations here. You got 3 days, we would do it. Another inspector would come in, said, oh, get this done, this done, this done. You'd have X amount of time, we'd get that done. Long story short, this went on for months. At one point, they tried to shut the restaurant down for a violation that was addressed, but every time DVR would send out an inspector, it was a different person, so their computers didn't really coincide. So I reached out to Jim. I said, this has to stop. I said, something's wrong here. I said, they'd send an inspector in on one day, the next day there'd be another inspector, not knowing what the first inspector did. I reached out to Jim, got a hold of DBR, and help solve that problem, which I'm thankful for because it was a stressful time as a restaurant owner. And it wasn't only my restaurant, it was a lot of restaurants through the state of Rhode Island, but Jim took the ball, ran with it, helped us out a lot. Another thing is to take it outside. I got a call, we were trying to get heaters. There was no heaters to be found. Found out about the town had some money, they applied, got the grant money. Got a phone call, or actually I got an email from your staff, fill out your wish list. I filled the wish list out. I didn't get everything, but I got a lot, and I got enough, and I'm thankful for that. Again, I'm sure you had a big part in that, and I think Rep. McEntee did too. And if you guys did, I thank you. Ever touched on something tonight is consistency. And I think I can speak for a lot of people in this town. That's what we need. We need consistency in that office. And I hope you heard everyone tonight. I can't believe the amount of things that Jim has got done and his staff in 22 months. Is that what it is, Jim? I mean, it takes months just to get comfortable in a town at a new position. And it blows my mind a little bit after hearing that tonight. So I want to thank this council and the previous council for a hand in hiring him. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Please state your full name and address.
Jeff Farrell, Sunset Farm, 505 Point Judith Road. Last year was a trying time. Thank you, Council, for hearing me right now. Last year with COVID was a very trying time. I'm not a public speaker, so excuse me if I'm not good at this. Meals were a tough thing, and things were very scarce. So we did Thanksgiving dinners, and we couldn't figure out how to get them delivered. And Jim here came by as town manager and was delivering Thanksgiving meals, and I really got to give it to him for that. He even came by Christmas and Easter. I think that was way over and above, and I just want to say thank you. That was excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay. All right, so seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Does anyone have any items on consent that they'd like to remove? No?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. Number 3, under Police Department, is a motion to approve the Police Department's request to hire 1 probational patrol officer. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second.
All right, discussion? Any questions? Actually, Chief, do you mind coming up? Thank you. So I know that we have the summary attached, but if you could just give us a little brief description, I appreciate it.
Yes, this will be the 41st position. This will get us back to full strength. As you recall, this position was created when we came up with the SRO for the middle school. So as staffing dropped off during the pandemic and we didn't have that position, I left the SRO in place, but that, of course, leaves us 1 short for the road. So by filling this position, I'll be able to put the second swing shift car on this time of year. So to go along with the first swing shift, you'll have full 7-day coverage on that 7 at night, 3 o'clock in the morning shift where they're dealing with the student renter type issues. And it also will give me flexibility in the summer to be able to do like special assignments, like a 90-day assignment to the beach. More resources, more flexibility.
Okay, great. And this was, it says in the summary, this is already budgeted for, right? You just haven't done the hiring?
Yes.
Okay. All right, any questions for the chief?
Just, I was just wondering, will this, I wasn't sure if you said this or not, this will help with what we're looking to do on the shoulder season, the
Absolutely,
May
absolutely.
and September activity? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, chief.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public would like to comment on this? No? Okay, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 4 from engineering is a motion to award the bid for the purchase of wastewater chemicals for potassium permanganate.
Very good.
Sorry, I've had some bad pronunciations this
You've
term,
had some tough
so,
words, too.
yeah. At
Permanganate.
2 point, what's that?
Permanganate.
There we go, thank you. At $2.97 per pound, and for sodium bisulfite, 38% solution at $2.49 per gallon to Univar Solutions USA Incorporated, and for sodium hypochlorite, 12% and 15% solution. We'll hold for a second.
Karen.
Okay, thank you. 12% to 15% solution at $1.47 per gallon to PVS Mini Bulk Incorporated. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Do we have a second? All right, any questions, comments from the council? All right, anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. Number 5 is a motion to reject the bid received for the RFP, Library Conversion Owners Representative Services, and authorizes staff to solicit new bids with a revised scope of work. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Second. All right, motion by Susan, seconded by Eva. Well, John.
Oh, John.
Right, yeah, we have John and James. So Susan and I are on the in the working group on the library project, so we have a pretty good idea of what's going on with this. But John, could you come up because I want to make sure we get the details correct on what why we're going to reject this and put it back out to bid, so everyone understands exactly why. Thank you.
This is all right. Good evening, Council President, council members. Yeah, this is a formality at this point to reject this proposal. We only got one in response to the original RFP we had, and to get a little more competition and probably a better price as well with a refined scope of work that we've worked on in the working committee meetings. We're going out. We need to reject this formally because that's a form of the policy and procedures for the purchasing department. We had a proposal out, it has to be rejected by the council, and then we'll go out and we'll have the revised RFP that's going to be done shortly, and we'll go out to additional vendors for that as well.
All right, thank you, John. Does anyone of the council have any questions for John while he's up here?
Yeah, John, you changed the scope of work, so can you explain that?
Well, it's not really changing, but some refinements with discussion with the library board and their advisors. We just wanted to be clear as to where we were, and the proposal that we have actually that we're rejecting is it had additional services proposed that weren't requested in the proposal. So we're trying to reduce and make sure that when we get the next set of proposals, and it's clear that, don't give us a price for something that we didn't ask you for.
Sure.
And to make sure that the numbers are as efficient and effective for us as possible.
But in general, everybody's on the same page.
Yeah, it's just, and this services are to handle stuff that's normally done through the engineering office. But a project of this scope and the complexity of the paperwork and documentation that we need to maintain the OLS reimbursement requirements, you really need to have someone who's can commit to it, on a more regular basis and that is on top of it all the time. When our services, we just don't have that expertise in the office.
Understood. All right, thank you.
All right, anyone else for John? Thanks, John. Thank you. All right, any other comments from the council in general? Okay, anyone from the public interested in speaking? Okay, nobody? So, all in favor?
Aye.
Oh, is there a hand? Are you good, Karen?
No, we're on a different.
We might, but that would be a different item. So we could discuss that. Thank you, it's a good idea. All right, so for this item to reject, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion approved, 5-0. Number 6 from Finance is a motion to approve the contract for the purchase of liquid propane gas from Amerigas Propane at the price of the Selkirk posting plus 0.246 per gallon for the period of October 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2024. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion. Second.
All right. Any comments from the council? Anyone from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0. Number 7 is a motion to award the bid for disaster recovery administrative services to GZA Geo Environmental, Inc. at their quoted hourly rates.
I'll move the motion. Second.
Okay. So this is the company that we have been working on for the American Rescue Plan funds. And this would be to continue working with them, the same rates. Does anyone have any questions for Chris Spagnoli about this? Okay. Anyone from the public? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved, 5-0.
Council President, I request we move up 14 at this point. I've got a couple people in the audience. I know we're going to the point.
All right. Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to move up item 14, agenda number 14.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion approved, 5-0. So number 14 is a motion to introduce, read, pass, and accept as a first reading a resolution amending the official list of parking restrictions and regulations in the town of Narragansett in accordance with the Narragansett Code of Ordinances to restrict parking on the west side of Center Road.
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, this comes from Councilor Murray.
Okay, Center Road, it's off Bridgetown Road. It's a dead-end, narrow street. And there's been parking on that street, and it just blocks the traffic. And I've had complaints from some of the neighbors who live on the east side of the street. But after talking with the police chief and actually going, I've been down that road many years ago, but I've actually visited that a couple times over the last couple weeks, and it is very narrow, and I'm looking to amend this to where we ban parking on both sides of the street, because either side is going to restrict traffic on for those few homes that are on that east side who front the street. The parking is coming from homes who front Bridgetown Road, who have plenty of parking, but they come around and instead of parking on their property, they park in the street, which blocks access to the folks and property owners on the east side of the street. So I'm looking to amend this and have ban parking on both sides, restrict parking on both sides of Center Road in the north end.
So
Thank you.
Patrick, I went down there yesterday. That road is narrow and it's
Yeah.
really dangerous getting in and out of that street.
Right.
I waited a
Yeah,
while
I
to
went
get.
by it twice, and I remember going down there years ago. And I
Getting
missed
in and
that.
out of there is unbelievable, with the traffic coming around the corner. But it is very narrow, so I can support this. And the chief agrees with it as well?
Yeah, yeah,
No objections?
All right, so we have an amendment, right?
yes.
All right, is there a second for the amendment?
I'll second his amendment.
All right, so all in favor of the amendment itself?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, amendment approved, 5-0, and then we have the main
Oh,
motion.
yeah, and, yeah.
Any other comments from the council on this? Yeah, I went down yesterday and checked it out as well. I measured, so it's 14 and a half feet in some spots, 15 feet in another spot, so it's really narrow.
Yeah, and that guy with the hedge. Guy's got the hedge right on the,
Oh, I didn't notice that, but yeah.
Are
Nice
they
hedge.
parking on both sides right now? Are they-
Right now, it's fully open.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I was fine with doing one side, but
Yeah.
if you want to do both.
well, after talking with the chief and then actually going down, I used to know somebody down on Bridgetown Road, and I've been on that road before, but this is many years ago, so.
The other problem is, it's right on the curve of
Yeah,
Bridgetown.
that's right.
So I was leaving there with nobody parked,
Right.
and I had trouble getting out,
Right.
even with no cars. But if you had a car parked there, they'd be blocking
Maybe
your
blocking
view.
that view.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not a good
Yeah,
situation.
that's a dangerous little street there.
What do they do if they have, like, guests or something, though?
Well, the few houses that are there have parking.
They do?
You know,
they have
so
drivers.
I don't think the homeowners on that east side, they don't park on the road, because then their neighbor couldn't get out, or they'd have to drive on somebody else's property to access Bridgetown Road.
Okay.
So, I mean, the other thing is, I just want to bring it up, I don't know if there's support for it or not, but, we could keep it on your original motion was one side.
Right.
So you still had some parking there. You could also limit parking at the end of the road, so you keep that free, if we wanted to leave a little bit of parking on that street.
Well,
I don't
that's
know.
One of the problems is at the very end of the road.
Right, you'd have no parking at the end.
Right, but I don't know, I just, I would rather just pass it, and if somebody complains that, I can't, I mean, they can access their property.
Well, you'd have to amend, I mean, we have the attached ordinance, though, is the problem. So I think we would actually, we couldn't, I don't think we can even amend this on the spot, because you have a specific, can we amend the ordinance on the spot tonight as a first reading?
Actually.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, do you hear what he's saying? Limited at the top and the bottom, but they could park.
That way you have
Some
some
ability
parking
to
for
park.
guests?
That's
You
good
can as a
amendment.
first reading for this purpose.
You could, okay, so you could. But, well, what do you guys, so we could do whatever. We could amend it fully, we could do my suggestion, we could stick with Patrick's. I just
I just don't want us to have, like, an unintended consequence where residents are disturbed by the fact that.
Well, the only one that's gonna get disturbed is if people parking there. Now, the people who are parking there live on Bridgetown Road. And they front Bridgetown Road, and they have plenty of parking in front of the house and in back of the house. But instead of driving on their property and parking off the road, they're parking on the road, blocking the homeowners that are on the east side. There's only like 4 homes there.
Yeah.
And they can't get out of their property. And the chief says they've been down there several times
Okay,
with complaints.
All right, let's go
I
with
just-
his,
I just
let's
don't
go
want
with
us
his
to-
amendment.
find another problem.
no parking.
Yeah, I mean, I think his amendment is probably
Because we've
accurate
got no
at this
parking
point.
in 90% of the town. I mean, it's a little stretch of road for these 4 homeowners.
Eva, any comments? All right.
Would the chief weigh in on which one would be?
Sure. Do you want to hear from the chief?
Yeah, I mean, he
hear from
could
the-
guide us a little bit. Oh, no.
Susan, you want to hear from the chief, right?
I just, we're struggling with the amendment, so we want to make sure, from a safety perspective, and since you know exactly what we're talking about, I mean, what do you think?
There's only 4 houses there.
'Cause
As I
it's
told,
4
as I told
houses.
Patrick, I didn't have any objections to it. I haven't actually received complaints, so we hadn't looked at it, but I drove down there and took a look at it, and from what he described, it didn't have an objection to the restriction being put in place.
No, but Jesse had
Yeah.
just brought up a different amendment where it was blocked, you couldn't park it both ends of
Right,
the
sorry.
street.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I
we were
probably
just
should have
wondering-
discussed this before we made the amendment. I was just saying another option would be that we stick with the original motion, which is no parking on the west side, and then just have limited parking on the right side, so up towards the corner of Bridgetown.
You can do that with proper signage.
Right.
We've done that a little
So we could just stick with the original motion if we wanted to, and then you would just place the sign. Or, is that right, or do we need to be specific with,
It should be
30?
It should be specific with the ordinance, but I'm saying we would
Yeah.
control the site with the signage.
Okay, got it.
So, and this is a dead end, right?
It's a dead end.
It's a dead end.
But the problem is with that, is that, you know, if they're parking on that, on the west side, okay? They already have parking, because anybody who's parking in that neighborhood lives there. And they already have parking on the homes that front Bridgetown Road. They have plenty of parking. There's no reason why they're parking on that road, okay? I mean, if they have guests, I mean, these are, 10,000, I think they might even be half-acre lots. And they can park in the back, but they're just parking on the road where these other folks who live on the east side can't enter. And then forget the fire truck, getting an ambulance or a fire truck down there. So, I mean, listen, I'm anti-banning parking, but this is one situation that, this is a hill I'll die on, because you want to talk about safety? Have one neighbor park anywhere on that street and send a fire truck down there. I'd like to see that one.
Any other questions?
I think we're good.
Okay.
Thanks, Chief. Forgot about you there for a second. All right, anyone from the public interested in speaking on this? Yep.
I'm Jeff McCrae. I've lived there since 1985.
Oh, sorry, what's your address?
A last house on the Center Road, the end of the road.
Okay.
I've lived there since 1985. We've never had any problems, but lately, with the rental properties on Bridgetown Road, Mr. Murray is correct. If there was ever an emergency down there, you could not get a fire truck or an ambulance down there. One side of the road, they wouldn't be able to get a vehicle down there. I've called the police many times to help me get out of my property or get into my property. They parked right across my driveway. They park in front of my mailbox. I can't get mail or have mail picked up because of the double parked. The police have had they've had to walk down because they can't even come to my property because of the people parking. Now there is a private residence. They seem to use Center Road as a parking lot for their parties or whatever they're having. And it's just getting out of hand. I've lived there going on 36 years, and everybody that lives on Center Road, it's so narrow as our neighbors, we will pull to one side of the road and let the other neighbor go by. You cannot go by two cars at the same time, and if anybody parks, it is very difficult. I don't see how any, emergency vehicle could ever make it down there. I'm just giving you my piece because I don't see how one side is going to help the other side because the road is very, very narrow. So thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Yep.
How are you doing? My name is Mark DeMichael. I live at 16 Center Road next to Jeff. I've lived there since 2009, and I completely agree. There's been numerous times when I've been trying to actually pull my trailers out of my driveway itself and trying to maneuver or even just be able to pull out or down the road. We were very courteous and have to allow somebody else to go by. And with the embankment on the west side, the downgrade that is there, people aren't allowed to are able to pull off far enough to where it wouldn't obstruct us. And the only other parking where there are hedges you have seen on both sides of the east side would be on my front yard. So I agree with safety equipment, fire trucks and everything not being able to go past there. So I completely agree with no parking on both sides. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Dr. Alba?
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I concur with these other two gentlemen and what Patrick Murray eloquently stated. I think health and safety is first and foremost, and I don't think it's worth making any kind of exceptions, because if there's any kind of exceptions, then one car is going to go there, and then there has to be 2 cars or 3 cars. But if we totally stop parking or towing definitely, I think that's the way to go. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay. Any other comments from the council? So we have the
I
amended.
just want to say one more thing. I think some of the reason I think those neighbors from Bridgetown Road are parking on the road is because that whole area, like a lot of Narragansett, is wet. And it's all grass, and if you park on there, you got a two-wheel drive, you have a good chance of getting stuck in his own yard, or whoever's yard. So, I mean, that's why they park on the road instead of parking on the right-of-way or, their own lawn, so. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the amendment is to have no parking on both sides. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, motion approved, 5-0. So we're back to number 8, I believe. Yeah. From the town clerk is a motion to reappoint one individual to the Land Conservancy Trust.
I'll move the motion. I'd like to,
Wait, that's okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right,
I'd like to reappoint Tom Rogers.
okay, so I'm just gonna, we have a bunch of appointments, so I just want to be kind of clear and review where we're at with our newly amended town council rules. So, so basically what we have done is we have implemented the term limits, and we put those in the town council rules so that anyone serving currently, if they've already served 2 terms, they are eligible for 1 more. If they serve more than 2 terms, they're eligible for 1 more. And if they're serving a expired term, they're eligible for one more, but it will take into account the time they've served, and that comes off of their final term. So like, if you're a year into an expired term, you're gonna serve 2 more years, and that makes 3 total. So that's the way that we implemented it. So that's what we're working on for these appointments. All right, so we have Tom Rogers.
So actually, based on the 2012 referendum, so any appointments that I'm going to be looking at, I know what the council voted on, but in the spirit and the letter of the law, I still believe that any of those appointments from 2012 on do count as a term. And then the charter review recommendations were 2 3-year terms. So when I look at these, I'm looking at that. And with that said, I'm going to be keeping to that. So I did look at this, and I do know Tom Rogers, really great. But again, he's been on for 2 terms, if you're basing it off of 2012. So I did review the candidates that are also looking for appointment, and there was, I wanted to nominate Deborah Ryan. A lot of times we get applicants who want to serve on various committees. They check off more than one. And Deborah checked off just Land Conservancy Trust, and she's very passionate about that. So that's my nomination, and I understand what the council voted on and what the terms were decided on. But again, I'm just kind of sticking to what I believe.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have 2 nominations. We have one for Tom Rogers, he's the current chair, and then we have one for Deborah Ryan. Any other nominations?
No, but can I say something
Sure.
else? I am on the Land Conservancy Board, and I've done some significant work in the last several months with Tom Rogers, and I have to say that he is a treasure, and that he has institutional knowledge that I am quite certain that no one else on that current committee has. I think that has to be transferred. I think that's very important, and that is one of the main objectives of what we agreed to do, is to ensure that institutional knowledge gets transferred. So I strongly support this nomination, and I also just think we owe a great deal to Tom Rogers.
Great, thank you. Yeah, and I'll second that as well. So I've served on that board last term, and then I am this term as well. And so this specific item, and then we have another one later on, the library board. Those are 2 examples, in my opinion, of like exactly why we passed the rule in the method that we did, was so that these boards had sufficient time to prepare for the transition. Like Tom is so essential to running that board. That's not necessarily good that that's the case, that one person is so essential, but it is the case. So this would give him 2 years to, work on a plan for who's going to take over that chair position. Because it would be a very large step down, in my opinion. It's not an insult to anybody on that board, but it would be a big step down to go from him to anybody else right this second. So it's within the rule in the way we passed it, and I know how valuable Tom is to that board. So, Patrick, any thoughts?
Yeah, Tom's on top of it down there, and I agree. And, then everybody on the playing field knows when the end date is, so the people who reapply can maybe start showing up at the meetings and get acclimated into whatever committee they want to go on. So there's clear demarcation lines now of when things begin and end, and I think this transition is important. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone from the public interested in speaking? Dr. Alba?
Yes, Dr. Al Alba, 24 Eagles Nest Terrace. I concur with your thoughts, President, and I also thank you, Susan, for the reappointment, I should say. He's doing great work. Let's keep him. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so, I could tell from the comments that the consensus would be for Mr. Rogers. So I'm going to call the vote for, it's kind of interesting the way we do this, but, we could call it for either one, but someone's getting rejected. So I'll start with Tom Rogers because I think that he will get the votes. If that doesn't happen, then we'll go to Deborah Ryan. So for the reappointment of Tom Rogers, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay. So that passes.
Council President, who seconded that motion? I have Susan who made.
Deb?
I did.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was Deb. Thank you. All right. So that appointment passes 4-0 with 1 abstention. Okay. Number 9 is a motion to reappoint 3 individuals to the Tax Assessment Board of Review.
I'd like to make a motion
All right. Do we have a second? All right.
of nominations and.
Okay. Is there a second?
Yes, I'm just waiting for a second. I'd like to reappoint David Ashenbow, Joe Robenheimer, and John Shield. They're up for reappointment. They're all requesting to be reappointed.
All right. And these will be their final terms.
This will be their final terms.
Okay. Are there any other nominations?
Yes. So again, because in my opinion, these individuals have termed out. 2 terms for David Archambault, 3 terms for Joseph Robenheimer since 2012, and then 3 terms for John Schell, who's the chair, Schell, yes, S-H-I-E-L, sorry about that. So there are 2 other individuals that are 2 applications on file, and those were Richard Campbell and Stephen Glazer, who are not, I don't believe, serving on any other boards or commissions. So I was going to nominate them in lieu of reappointment.
Okay. So that would be a nomination for those 2 specifically, right?
Yeah. And
All right. So what we're going to do, because it's kind of, I think, a little bit rare to be in this position, is we're going to just try to get a consensus during discussion, whatever that is, we'll do the vote on that. Deb or Susan. So Susan, you made the appointments. Deb, what's your feeling?
My feeling is that we should reappoint the existing members.
Okay. Patrick?
Yeah, again, so again, they would serve this new term out, and then they would have to step down, so. We're just finishing up a reval. I don't know how much is left in that. How much is left? We're pretty much done with that reval, right? There's still some more, I think.
There are still some more hearings
Yeah,
that are
there's
left.
still some more hearings left. These guys are, they're more than qualified. In fact, I used to be on this committee, believe it or not. Very scary, yeah. So I can support these candidates to continue. Again, this is a transition period, and then Campbell and Glazer can, reapply.
Right, and
At that
actually, the
time.
chair would have basically 1 year
Yeah.
left.
1 year left, right.
Right. Even with this reappointment, because he served too.
Yeah, he's been on for a while.
Okay, yeah, and I'm in the same, position in terms of I would just support the 3 reappointments so they could finish out their terms. Anyone from the public interested in speaking on this? Okay. Anything else? Okay. So we're going to go with the consensus vote. So this will be for the reappointment of David Archibald, Joseph Robenheimer, and John Scheel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
I'm abstaining.
Yep. Motion approved 4-0 with 1 abstention. Number 10 is a motion to appoint, reappoint 2 members and remove 1 alternate member and appoint another alternate member in its place to the Harbor Management Commission. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay.
I'd like to
Appoint- any
make a
appointments?
motion to reappoint Brian Kuchar and Raymond Morocco
Okay.
for reappointments.
All right, we'll start with that.
So again, since 2012, Brian has had 7 terms, which was 21 years on this Harbor Management Commission. As you recall, we did remove somebody for being termed out. I just want to be consistent. And then Raymond Morocco has had 2 terms, so that's 6 years. So I would actually, everyone that's on here has other committees, so.
Richard Campbell is free
Yeah.
of duty.
Okay, that's good, do that for library, sure, Richard Campbell.
Okay. Okay. So we got Susan and Eva's perspective. Deb?
Same as before.
Same as before. Patrick?
Well, 21 years, that's, this guy Campbell, he wants to get into the trenches here.
But he can. Yeah, he can.
How many are on that committee?
Adopted.
7, I think. But just remember that we're going to also, if this goes according to the motion, appoint a alternate.
Right.
So we could put Richard Campbell into that position
As an
if we wanted to.
Right. Okay, so Code 2 stays, when's his term run out?
24, 2024, June
2024?
2024.
This guy's been on 21 years.
He is the
There's 7 people on this committee,
Yep.
all right? Now, it's
We'll
a
have
bigger
to-
committee, it's like the tax review board where there's 3.
Trying to stay consistent with the rule that we just approved, though.
Well, I know, but, I mean,
It's kind of unfair to single
it's
him out.
also, we can, there's transition and transition. I know we agreed to a certain way to do it, but if somebody's been on for 21 years, and there's other people that want to get on, and it's a larger committee, I don't see a problem.
So I just want to bring up one thing. So earlier in the year, when we did appointments, we did not reappoint who was the current chair of that. So he's gone. So
Is he the chair?
he is now, I believe, the chair, right? He was the vice chair, and now he's the chair.
They have not appointed anybody for the chair. He's remained as vice
Vice,
chair.
right.
But he's acting
As the chair. Right. So then if we don't reappoint him, then we've just lost the chair and the vice chair within like 6 months.
All right, I stand down. Okay? I'll stick Campbell in the alternate.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone from the public interested in speaking? All right, so this is for the appointment, reappointment of the 2 individuals. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, all opposed, 0 with 1 abstention. Okay, so that's approved, 4-0 with 1 abstention. The next sub-motion would be for the removal of Megan Keefe. Do we have a motion for that removal?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so she hasn't responded to any communication since we appointed her, hasn't gone to any meetings, and it's in violation of the the committee rules.
So we'll be okay to get rid of it.
I don't think we'll be sued for this. All right. Any discussion from the council? Anyone from the public? All right, so to remove Megan Keefe, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? You vote aye? Okay. Motion approved, 5-0. And then do we have an appointment for an alternate member?
I'd like to nominate Richard Campbell.
Second.
All right, any comments? Anyone from the public? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so that takes care of that board. We have number 11, which is a motion to appoint, reappoint 4 individuals to the Library Board of Trustees. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion, and I have some nominations.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right,
I'd
Susan?
like to reappoint the following members: Lori Kelly, Karen Shepchelowitz, Nancy McKenna, and Ellen Kuma for another 3 years.
All right, and these would be final terms for all of them?
Final terms for all 4, yeah.
Okay, any discussion or comments?
So again, 5 terms, 2 terms, 3 terms, 4 terms, and there are some really great people who are looking to be on this board. I see one, Marian Grinchenko. I know her. She's one of my neighbors, very passionate about the library. I see Catherine Moss on here, Shannon Oberho. I was going to say Richard Campbell, but now he's on the other one. And those were the 4 that I saw that weren't on other boards or commissions. So those are, I think they're all very supportive of the library.
Okay, so you would be nominating, did you make nominations?
Yes, nominate all 4.
Okay, all 4, okay.
I can't, Richard Campbell now, but.
Gotcha. Okay, Deb and Patrick, any comments?
Which, you nominated 3, didn't you?
Yeah, so Marian Grinchenko, Catherine Moss, Shannon Oberho.
Okay, so the 3, because Richard's taken now, right? Okay. Okay, Deb and Patrick.
I have to continue the way I spoke before.
Okay. Patrick?
Well, again, we're in the middle of actually refitting a building as a library, so I think it's kind of a critical time. I think I'd have to go with the current members and support them to continue. So.
Okay, yep, I agree. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this? Karen? Jim, do we have a hand mic? Karen, do you want to sit and we can bring a mic over to you? You okay? All right.
6 years. This is my 6th year on the council. On the library board. And I feel very passionate about libraries. What I don't feel passionate about is sometimes people apply for the board and they don't really have that passion, but it's a political thing to do. And it's sort of like a stepping stone on the resume or something. But the library board has had so many roadblocks thrown in its face, especially by the previous town council. I mean, this should have been sequentially worked on, supported by the town government, supported by the town administrator. They should have worked forward to step on the accelerator button. This has been going on forever. And people keep asking me, like, what's going on with the library? What's going on with the library? And you know what? It's going to cost us a lot more now because they've been playing games by kicking the can down the road. I don't know if it's politics or they just don't care about. The people wanted a library. We decided on the Belmont building. That was the best choice. And the previous council before that one had only given us 2 choices. And the one over by the community center is on a lot of wet area. And It's off the beaten path of bus routes. 14 comes right by there, and it's towards the center of town.
Karen, try to stay on the topic, please.
All right, well, I'm just saying the place where it is a good place. But then there are people that want to be on the board, and they've got their own agenda, I must say. So if all things were equal and we were able to pursue what the people had wanted and what we were working on, because we've been working on this for a long time, maybe we wouldn't be thought of as older time for them to step off. And I apologize for falling off.
You don't need to
Chair.
apologize. No apology.
I have a very tragic health situation with one of my grandchildren, and I haven't had much sleep. And usually I'm up extremely early, and I'm usually asleep on the couch by now. But it's hard, very hard. So I'm sorry that happened.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so we have a consensus on the reappointing the same 4 that currently serve. So all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, motion approved 4-0, 1 abstention. Okay, number 12 is a motion to approve the increase of compensation for the town sergeant to $55 per meeting for meetings up to 3 hours, and for meetings over 3 hours to $55 plus $15 per hour thereafter. Do we
I'll
have
move the
a?
motion.
All right, is there a second? All right, this comes from Councilor Kopek.
One of the things that I noticed as soon as we had hired Thomas in his first week was that he was compelled to work a 7-hour meeting for $55. I might have just left it 3 hours, I don't know. But the fact of the matter is that I think that in this day and age, when we're trying to create a living wage of at least $15 an hour, that the least we can do is ensure that Thomas is compensated in that way anytime he works greater than a standard 3-hour meeting. So that was my rationale for doing this, and I think it's important, and I think it's fair, and I think we saw actually in that same meeting, Thomas demonstrate why it's important to have him here. So I think we should do this.
All right, thank you.
Excellent.
Anything?
No,
Susan?
I agree
Okay.
with Deb.
Yeah,
Happy
so
to have him
I just,
here.
I just wanted to bring a couple things up to the council. So again, like I wasn't familiar with the whole town sergeant thing, so I started looking into it. And then I did come across when they were doing the charter review back in 2010. So one of the recommendations that went forward and was passed as part of that was that they changed, because in there it says, on the blue sheet, it says there shall be a town sergeant, and that language has actually changed to there may be a town sergeant. So it's not a mandatory position. And I know like we were talking about like the salary and the wages, but a lot of times it's a stipend. As like council members, we get a stipend. We don't get paid hourly. I mean, we end up getting $2 to $3 an hour in the end. But so I just wanted to bring that up. Right, I know, it's $1 an hour. Yeah, so, and I know that we had actually approved another job that Thomas was interested in, which was the video, helping with the video. So that was just something that I'm bringing up and just kind of letting the council know that the town sergeant is not a requirement to have. Also, when I started looking into what other municipalities and towns were, the whole town sergeant thing, and some of them consider actually the police chief is the town sergeant. So when they're at meetings, they are the town sergeant. And I know chief is always here. And at other meetings, we've also had, when meetings we know are going to be contentious, we've had the police here, so we pay for that detail. Our town manager is also a former police officer, so I don't know. So I'm just kind of throwing that out there and just for the council to kind of just discuss that.
Okay, thank you.
Living wage? Really?
That's not what I say, but yeah.
What's the minimum wage? Anybody know what the minimum wage is?
Right now, it's, I think, $12.70.
$12.70. I'll amend this to $12.70 and I'll agree with it. Because right now, his kid's gonna be making more than I am.
Oh, my
Every
God,
month.
Patrick. Get that.
You okay with that, Thomas?
But Thomas, I thought you were interested in the others, because I think when we pass it, and I don't know, I'm not trying to get rid of you by any means, I'm just trying to make a point, because I know if you were interested in the other
I haven't
job,
heard, I don't know, I haven't heard that. What, is that what you were saying?
No,
She's
I
just-
just don't, I don't think we
She
should
doesn't,
be having
she
this
was saying going
conversation
back and forth.
like that.
So I'd like to amend this with,
Well, hold on, let's have
okay.
a,
All right, well, let's talk about it.
let's talk a little bit more about it. All right. So you're right, it's not a required position, and we haven't had, have been periods where we didn't have a town sergeant. I think before Dave, we didn't have one. So I think there's two things. Do we want to have a town sergeant? That's the first thing, which we have decided that we do. And I think it's shown to be valuable, at least already one time this year when we had our public hearing, and Thomas stepped up. And I think that was the first or second meeting.
Is that the meeting when he tried to show me out the door?
Yeah, I think he body slammed you and threw you out.
That's why I did this, Patrick.
Nice job there, Thomas. You got the wrong guy there.
So I think that the position makes sense to have. And then you say, well, if you're going to have it, what's the compensation? I agree that it's a kind of a stipend type of position
Right.
because people don't. I think the idea was that you do it kind of as a service to the town, but you're also getting a stipend, right? So that's the idea. So we have the stipend of 55. The question is, do we want to pay additionally when you go beyond a standard meeting? Correct. And some of our meetings weren't standard, but they're getting to the point now where they are, right?
Yeah,
So here's the question. So if we have 25 meetings a year, something like that, if every one of those meetings goes an hour over, then that's $15 per meeting times 25.
Yeah.
So 15 times 25 is what? That is
$400.
900, right? Something like that?
15 times 20, oh.
50, someone should be able to do this in their head, but not me. $375. So if we average 4-hour meetings
For you. For you.
for the year, which I think we won't do, right now we're doing about 2 to 3 hours.
For the year.
Then that would be $375 we'd be paying extra. for
That's
that year.
about the change.
From 50 to 55. From
$5.
50 to 55.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, $350 for the year for an hour extra.
But then if you are working if you have a 5-hour meeting, so you're going until midnight, you get an extra $30 for doing that, which I think is fine. I just don't think it's that big a deal. It's pretty small money.
Yeah, you get a differential for all those. for
No,
the
well, it's
hours.
55 a meeting
It's well
unless it
worth
goes
it.
like 5 hours.
Well, I can't remember the last time we had a 4-hour meeting. They're usually right till
about,
11 o'clock at night. Midnight, 1 o'clock.
They're always going good until we get to your
We're past
items.
bedtime.
Until we get to your items, we're good.
Well, I
We
got a
did
couple
4
items
hours,
that are
two-
going to be
two
dog
meetings
fights
ago.
here,
Let's
so.
stick to it.
All right, so, all right, do you want to make an amendment,
I'd
though?
like to amend it to where he gets the $55 and minimum wage.
Okay, so,
You had me right up to where you said, when you said living wage, all right?
I didn't say
And
that.
I know
I
you did,
did.
she did.
She's Deb.
Oh.
Yes, I did.
Councilman Kopek.
All right, so we
You
have-
had me right up to where you said that, and I said, oh, no, I got to put the brakes on this one.
Oh, sure.
All right, so that's the amendment. Is there a second? Is there a second to the amendment? Okay,
No, I got a second.
I'll second
Okay.
it for keeping.
all right. Any comments from the public on this is the amendment, it's specifically Stanley. We'll give a chance to speak on the item itself, too. All right, so no one from the public. So for the amendment to change it to minimum wage, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Nay.
No.
Nay.
All right, motion fails 2-3. All right, so we're back to the original motion. Let's go to the public. Stanley?
Trying to save you money, Stanley.
Sometimes.
Me and the town manager.
I know, I couldn't help it. Stanwood House, get 1044 bus next door. I know, I wasn't going to stand up, but after you brought the whole thing up, I started thinking, we got to watch the pennies. We just got to watch the pennies. So, and Eva, I'm so happy that you brought up the idea. You know, the contentious part of the meeting is normally around 8 o'clock. You know, that's when they come in. So maybe we only need we only need him to stay for the 3 hours. We don't need him. We don't need him to stay till 11, just because you're having a meeting till 11.
Right.
You know, you're just going to have a contentious time in the first 3 hours. After that, look at it, there's nobody here, nothing's happening. So maybe we ought to just say, he may leave after his, so we don't have to pay the overtime. We don't have to pay any overtime, because he may leave then. You know, and then he gets to go home early. I'm sure he'd be happy about that. He wouldn't have to spend here the whole night, you know, and especially when he doesn't know how long he's going to be here and all that. So just let him go home after the 3 hours, whatever. That should be a good compromise, I think. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else? Okay. All right, any last comments before we vote? No. All right, so the motion is as stands. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
15, I'll go with it.
All right. You were aye, right? All right, motion approved, 5-0. All right,
No
number
reflection on you, young man.
number 13 is a motion to approve the purchase not to exceed $10,000 of video and audio live streaming equipment to outfit the large boardroom for YouTube live streaming. Do we have a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so this comes from Eva and myself. Actually, it was initially introduced by Eva to direct the IT director to look into it. So if you want to speak on it, feel free.
So just in an effort for transparency and so that, you know, our residents see a lot of these meetings, there's a lot of important decisions made in a lot of these board meetings, especially the planning and zoning board. So I had asked the town manager to come up with, you know, just have Dan look at some possibilities. And so there were some, you know, more, you know, kind of not as expensive versions, but, you know, we just want to do it once and do it right. And I think the equipment could be used for other meetings as well, or just, you know, you just want to get it done right the first time. So that was kind of where I stood on that. Desi.
Thank you. Yep, so, you know, we got the options back from Dan. I don't know if that was the last meeting or the one before, but it was pretty thorough. He gave us 3 options, and like Eva said, I agree. If we're going to spend the money, wasn't that big a difference between like the medium and the most expensive, and it'll last for a while. And the better setup, the better quality you're going to get when you're listening to it or watching it from home. So I think we should just do it right. And the nice thing is, by setting this up stationary in the large boardroom, other committees will be able to use this when they have bigger, more important meetings that people might want to tune into. So it'll be available to them as well. The other thing I want to make clear is that this motion just approves the purchase and the installation of the equipment. It doesn't approve mandating zoning or planning to use it. So we haven't voted on that. We haven't changed the rules to say they have to record their meetings. This is just to get the room set up. And then we'll have to take further action later. And also staffing that room with a human being to use the equipment would be something that we'd approve as well. So, all right. Anyone from the council?
I think it's great. I fully support it. I think it's great.
All right.
Is our intention to mandate it?
It will, well, if we're going to make it required for those.
It's $10,000.
Yeah,
It's
if we're
not,
spending it, so
$2,
we assume that we
$2.50 an hour or anything.
Right, I'm just saying that it's not in this motion.
No, what she's saying is the intention down the road, because we don't want to spend the 10,000 if we don't go to the next step.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I do too,
Okay,
so
just checking.
it's a good question.
Okay, Patrick?
Is there any estimated cost on operating this equipment in the future?
Yeah.
Dan?
Can we get Stanley to run it? Stanley, how's your IT skills?
It is. It's like right here, Patrick.
As of right now, it'd be me until we get the part-time position filled. Hopefully, we get that filled sooner rather than later. So we're basically the same stipend as we do for the council and the school committee, $100 a meeting.
You hear that, Patrick?
Very funny.
Yes.
$100 a meeting, huh?
Thank you. All right, thanks, Dan. And we have not received much in terms of interest in that. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe I'll take it.
I know. Well, I don't know if you could do
What do I
that.
have to do?
All right, anyone from the
Call me in a
public?
year.
Stanley?
That's right.
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 Boston Neck Road. I don't know if you know that I was the first one to run the camera in 1995 or somewhere around there. I brought the thing in. And at that time, I wanted all the committees and all of them to have it on there so everybody could know what's going on.
Right.
And the objection was, in the planning and zoning, well, people would be afraid to participate if they knew the camera was there. So they shut the whole thing off and refused to do it.
Right.
So I don't, thank God we brought it up again. Although, I don't know if I want to spend the $10,000. Why can't they all come here? We got it all set over here. So why would I spend an extra 10? Tell them to all run their meetings over here. You do that all the time. It's a small thing, and I can't argue too much, but again, spending $10,000 when we got this stuff here, so they relocate from here to, and this might be better because they'll have more room. Over there, during the bigger meetings, the contentious meetings, they no room in there. So it'd be good to force them to come on in here and do all the meetings here. I think that's the better way to go.
Second.
Oh, my goodness. Well, I changed one mind only. I changed one. All right. Save some money, do it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley.
Stanley, I think you're a good 2022 candidate there.
Anyone else? All right, Mr. Zanfrillo?
Hi, Paul Zanfrillo, 7 Wynwood Circle. I'm curious if the motion could be amended to include the mandating of it for the planning board and the zoning board as well. I don't know if that's too far off agenda, but it would be good to do both in one shot. I also support the motion. I think all town committees should, but definitely those two boards. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay. In terms of that comment, I don't know if we could amend it or not. We've all discussed, I think, interest in doing that. I don't have an issue with just waiting and doing a separate motion. I don't know if there's a rush. It's not even set up yet.
Yeah.
But if anyone wants to amend it, it's up to you guys.
It sort of seems like it's out of the scope, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would wait.
Okay. Wait and just take care of it as another motion, right? Susan, you good with that?
Yeah. Thinking about
Right.
it, I mean.
I had a question for Dan. Dan.
Yes, sir.
Instead of going with an elaborate streaming service, can't you just have kind of like a eye in the sky mounted on the ceiling that with Audible? I mean, people are talking to doorbells, for God's sake. Something simple
Right.
that just records, and if anybody wants a copy of it, you can.
think they
I
want
mean,
it
something
real
simple.
time.
They don't have to. You don't have to, get, headshots. I mean, if people had a sense of what's going on in the meeting, I mean, isn't that what we're shooting for?
I get your point. A lot of those doorbells do a fine job with the video, but the audio quality across the room without microphones in specific places is not going to work. That's where the issue comes into play. And in order to get the microphone and the audio working
Right.
together, you got to include a computer,
In
a
this day and
controller
age,
for the
you couldn't have a
microphone.
wireless microphone on the table.
Wireless microphones we can do. They are more expensive rather than running some cables under the floor.
But I mean, it'd be like a smoke detector type thing with a
There is a camera, and it
shooting
will be
down.
mounted on the back wall.
Yes.
It'll be a PTZ
Right,
camera.
Right. Now, would that be a cheaper alternative and we'd still get?
Those cameras don't have microphones in them that would cover
Right.
that entire room.
But you could have a wireless setup that could get the sense of what's going on in that room, right?
To a point, yes, but in order to get the audio quality where you can actually hear it on YouTube, you need to include microphones in areas of the room to catch it, i.e. the staff table
Yep.
and the board table.
Right.
Those two microphones will catch those 3 to anywhere 12 people. That way, the people listening to it on YouTube can actually hear it. And with that, you need to include the mixer to mix the audio into the video, the camera for the video, and then the computer to send it all to YouTube. Unfortunately, it's one of the, yeah, you do it or not, so.
Yeah, actually, Jim, question, so the American
Stop
Rescue
laughing,
Fund money,
Jim. Stop
like
laughing.
we can't use any of the COVID money for something like this, and I don't remember what the criteria was actually, so.
That would have to be looked into. I don't know if that
Yeah.
would be covered.
Well, maybe we could.
I don't know, I think in this day and age, we could find a cheaper alternative, and something that's manned, we could find something that's more.
Geez, you want like surveillance now all of a sudden? You want like some little drones floating around?
Hey, I wasn't for the community center, all right? You want to stick a camera, stick it on the back of these trucks and service our building, you know?
So, and also, this is not to exceed $10,000, so that's the
I know,
top.
but
That's the
then-
top.
I know, but
Dan
then-
is a value shopper.
I don't know.
Black Friday, maybe?
Oh, yeah, that's coming up.
All right.
I don't know, I think you just,
All right, good?
I guess, yeah. You just,
Go big or go
creating
home.
more, creating more government. I mean,
No,
I'm
it's
fine with
it's
recording
transparency,
meetings.
not government.
I
We're
know,
trying
I'm
to,
fine.
Exactly,
you know.
that is correct.
I am
Transparency.
fine with recording planning and zoning meetings, I'm fine with that. But I mean, to get a camera crew in there and right next, what are we gonna do makeup? I mean, I mean,
It's a part-time job, it's not a camera crew.
well, it's just,
I know.
I think technically we could do something else.
Didn't we just
That
have a
could be
$2 million
cheaper.
unaudited surplus here? I think we can
Anyway,
afford it.
all right, take your vote.
Okay. Susan, you're good?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
All right, motion approved 4-1. Number 15 is the last item, a motion to direct the town manager to solicit an accredited surveyor to survey the following town right-of-ways, ocean access points: Pilgrim Avenue, Conant Ave, Hazard Ave, Newton Ave, and Bass Rock Road. Is there a motion?
I'll move the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, this comes from Councilor Murray and Drzezinski.
Okay, this issue has been out there for quite some time. I requested a survey of Pilgrim in Conant, or Conant, depending on what part of town you live in, several months ago. This round, I'm including Hazard, Ever and I, including Hazard, Newton, and Bass Rock. These are access points that, let me read the summary. The above longstanding generational public ocean access points are currently underutilized as town right-of-ways for public use. This proposal is to survey these 5 public ocean access points to determine encroachment of adjacent property owners, provide safe, practical parking schemes, and improve easier, unrestricted access to these areas. It is critical to preserve these public access points with parking and safeguard for future generational use by all. So that's what this is about.
So I
Thank
guess
you.
I just had a question about why right now? Why is, I mean, we talked about this earlier. I'm just wondering why it's back up.
Because no
Did
action.
it come from the coastal access?
It came from the coastal access, but we haven't taken any action on it. We haven't done a survey.
Because we voted no.
Yeah, so this was like an agenda item that we were talking about before, and Patrick and I had voted yes for it, but then the decision was to send it to at that point, the Coastal Access Committee was going to review it, and so that was the recommendation.
And, specifically, at all these points, it has been parking issues, and it wouldn't be bad to survey, these areas to provide better parking schemes. We did add parking up at Pilgrim, Conant, and Louise, and I think those areas should be surveyed to find a clear property line right-of-ways of the town of Narragansett, so we can, assist safe parking in these areas. It seems to be the argument that we, put the cart before the horse by adding parking in those areas, and I think this would hopefully ease some of the contention down in these areas.
So I'm going to stay consistent. I voted no when this came up, and I know it just said it went to the coastal access, but I'm going to vote against this motion tonight to survey that particular area. I don't agree with it. I'm not really sure what the benefit's going to be. I think we've done a lot down there, and I know this council has, improved coastal access, and I just think it's like poking the bear. I'm just not sure why we're going down there to do that, and I just
Well,
doesn't.
the reason we're putting this forward
gonna
is
lose this
because
vote, that's all.
These are state access points that are managed by the town. And it's our duty to make sure that they are surveyed. It hasn't been a survey since, I think the last survey was in 1980. They need to be updated. Property owners, in a couple instances, have encroached as much as 20 feet under these state land that we're supposed to manage. And we're not managing it very well. That's why it's up here. Because when we leave, I want my kid's kid to go down there and go fishing or surfing or swimming or scuba diving or whatever the hell he wants to do for generations. That's what we're here for. We manage these areas, and we need to do a proper job and a better job.
All right. Deb, any thoughts?
I guess I have another question, and that is, once this survey would be completed, what steps were you thinking about?
Well, I mean, if there's a clear encroachment with a property owner, then, it can be addressed. I mean, legally. James, I mean, if there's state property where, a property owner, longstanding property owner is encroached on, I mean, clearly there's you shoot the corners and you can clearly see that there's an encroachment. What's the procedure?
Well, I was curious, is this a survey of the actual access points to the water, or is it for the entire?
I think it should be the access points, okay? Because everybody says, oh, well, you can't park down there, there's no room. Well, there's no room because there's a property owner is encroached on areas that you could park there.
Right.
So, these are long generational access points. And it's my understanding, it's the town's duty to manage these properly for public access. And it's been kind of frittered away and ignored. And this is something that's, it's very important to me. And I want to make sure that future generations can go down there, park unrestricted, and do what they got to do, go fishing, surfing, what have you. So if we get a survey back and the property owner has 20, the question is, and the property owner has encroached 20 feet, so how does that, we just give them a notice, say, or the state, I guess, would step in and give them a notice, because it's not our property, we're just the manager.
Right, you can't adversely possess
Right.
public property, so.
Right.
Once the survey, if it's approved, is marked, then you'd know where those access points are.
Right.
And if you're talking about the roads as well?
Well, I think we could amend this. I mean, Jesse talked about it, where, we just, in that specific area, Connor and Louise and Pilgrim, we could survey that right away, where the parking side is. You only park on one side. And basically, that way there, if there's a dispute, there's a clear line of demarcation of where the town property begins and the property, private property ends. So everybody understands what's going on. And it will, give, access to where the car could be maybe further off the road. To provide passage, I mean, the big thing was safety, and we jumped the gun. So, we may be playing catch-up here, but, we'll provide more information. I mean, we have a judgment, a current litigation on this, so I think it's important to get a survey. While the survey is down there. I don't
Right,
think
so, you and I had talked about this like 2 years ago when we were
Yeah.
working on the proposal for these avenues. and if we should have those roads surveyed. So now that you guys have it on, so let me just step back, because you kind of asked where this came from. So if you look back at our meeting from earlier this year, Eva and Patrick had an item to survey the right-of-ways. During that discussion, the point I made was that the town council, it's hard for the town council to go and make changes and deal with every parking issue in town and every coastal access issue. It's just not a sustainable thing for a town council to do, in my opinion. So I said, let's wait for the Coastal Access Improvement Committee to get formed, and we'll get a recommendation for them on these. And that was specifically why I voted no then. That was me. I don't know about the rest of you. They
I like them a lot, but I don't always agree with their decisions.
right, and we don't all agree with anyone's all decisions by anybody. They took a look at this, and what they sent back was a more comprehensive proposal than just the two right-of-ways that Eva and Patrick had initially proposed. So they looked at it more holistically along Ocean Road. They said, why don't we recommend all of the CRMC access points along Ocean Road? So that's why the other three are included. This wasn't something that was really focused on the avenues. It was focused on right-of-ways along Ocean Road in general. So that's what they sent back. Now that we're looking at it, some other things have changed. One of those is that we are in litigation with some residents from that avenue, or from the neighborhood where Pilgrim and Conant are. That's public knowledge, that's out. In that lawsuit, what they claim is that the town did not do its due diligence when changing the ordinance for parking, something we all voted on. That we didn't do our due diligence, and that we should have surveyed before making any changes. I don't think that that's something that a town's required to do. I think the town can make any ordinance changes to parking that they want to. However, if the claim is that people's tires are going on their grass, and that's their private property, then if we're gonna have people go out there and survey, we should do the whole roads, because we're getting the surveys done, let's see the pricing, and let's know whose property it is. Because if that claim is correct and the property lines go in a sort of skewed direction where it actually is their property, then we're wrong and we should fix that. We should adjust. I don't think that that's going to be the case, but it could be. So let's get those surveys done so we know where we stand one way or another. I don't see how you could go wrong having updated records and knowing the lines.
So you're saying that you want to expand it to the roads, or
I think we should do all 5 of those right-of-ways. They're all roads.
or just the road, just the section?
I think we should do the
right-of-way?
roads, the full roads at those right-of-ways. So if you,
So, wait, when you say the full road, so let's just
All the
take
way down to
Pilgrim,
Ocean.
all the way down to Ocean.
I think we do that for all 5, know
On
how
the
wide
other
those
side.
roads are, because Hazard and Newton, they have parking too.
Right.
So we don't want to, why do we want to know the opening right at the right-of-way?
Yeah.
We want to know the opening where people park and how wide that is. So I would say let's get quotes to do those 5 roads. They're not long. None of those roads are long. And then the other thing is that you asked Patrick the attention. This item by them solicits accredited surveyor. So it'll come back to the council to approve the cost. So this doesn't even approve the work right now. So I think we should do them all. I don't know if you all agree in terms of the road, but that would be an amendment I'd be interested in doing.
Well, I agree. I think it should be as needed, because like, for instance, in Hazard Avenue, I don't think you need parking on the whole road. I think it's just towards the access point up to that, little past that driveway on the north side.
But I'm sorry for interrupting, but is the process, are we doing this to make sure that parking is okay, or that we know where the right-of-way,
Both.
locations are?
Both.
So, I mean, from that perspective, I think Jesse makes a good point, that we should probably just do the whole street.
Well, for Hazard Avenue, on the west side of Hazard Avenue, they haven't been parking up there. Nobody parks there. There should be plenty of parking on the east side, once we do the survey.
No, I get that. I'm just saying that, the point, though.
I mean, we could. I mean, if you want to save cost, we can squeak it down. I mean, if you, Yeah, we can get a
Okay.
reduced price, because you're
Yeah.
only doing half the street instead of the whole street.
All right,
But it's just mainly those access points in that parking area, because, for instance, at Hazard Avenue,
understand.
you go down there and they angle the parking. It's angled towards the ocean. It should be angled towards
way.
Ocean Road, so you just back up and do
Yeah.
the old three-point turn.
Right.
But for some reason,
they went the
you
other
know,
way.
they went the other way, so it makes it difficult. And then you get complaints from the people who live there saying, well, somebody's backing over my
Into my-
mailbox.
Right, right.
So we don't want any parking down.
Yeah, I wondered why we did
Yeah,
that.
so you want to talk about safety, we're trying to provide safety through an accredited survey. This is the way to go. Thank you.
Okay. Well, okay, so before we get comment, is anyone interested in amending this to say solicit? Yeah, like basic options,
Right,
partial
right.
and full surveys.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, let's amend that.
Surveys as needed.
Not as needed, just direct, you kind of have to specify.
Partial and full
So we want two different
quotes.
quotes. Janet probably needs the language. of-
So how about I'll make an amendment to the motion to say, a motion to direct the town manager to solicit an accredited surveyor to provide partial and full quotes to survey the following town right-of-ways.
Okay.
Is that okay, Janet? Okay, thanks. And Jim, is that clear to you?
One for simply the rights-of-way in the original agenda item, and
Right.
the other one for the rights-of-way,
For the whole
full
st-
length of the
yeah.
street up to
Yeah.
Ocean.
Right. Okay, thank you. All right, so that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second?
All right, so this is on the amendment. Anyone from the public wish to speak on the amendment? Stanley, and we'll go next. Or you could go ahead, that's fine.
Good evening, Town Council. My name is Dina DeRusso. I reside at 18 Louise Avenue. I have spoken before in front of the council, and I've sent numerous emails, both to the council and to Jim Tierney. Thank you, Patrick, for your concerns regarding restricting parking as described in your motion for 14. As you stated, you have great concern for narrow roads, the safety, and listening to the concerns of residents. But we heard other residents tonight speak about their concerns on their own road, but I feel like our neighborhood has not been listened to, which I think is very inequitable on the part of the town council. So it seems that the town council will pick and choose which roads that they would like to either just change the parking ordinance without their due diligence, and then pick the ones that they want to do a survey. So that's not equitable. We sit under a sign that says equality and justice and truth. So where is the truth in all that? So I'm here tonight, once again, to speak in front of this town council as a concerned resident that lives in a tiny, small neighborhood that sees another motion being come again about the neighborhood that includes right-of-ways. I live near two of those right-of-ways. This motion was turned down in the early winter of this year. Now here it is again with 3 other right-of-ways on it. It doesn't make sense that a committee is asking, and I read the motion, the information in there, it says it's underutilized. How can it be underutilized when my entire neighborhood is swamped by cars, when there are large waves? How is it underutilized when people are parking all over the soft grounds, the soft edges of the road, wrecking it, wrecking the pristine roads? You've already changed the parking ordinance where we have people parked in our neighborhood all day long without even 1 hour or 2 hour discretionary. They can park in the entire day from 5 in the morning to 9 at night. I sent an email again to you. I didn't hear from anyone this week. It's a deterioration of the neighborhood, of the residents who live there, their quality of life. It's a deterioration of the environment. You've made our neighborhood a destination by allowing full-time parking in our neighborhood by strangers. I am very concerned, and so are my neighbors, concerned about the safety of children that have to be dropped off on Ocean Road, Ocean Road, because their bus couldn't get down the street. And I have the police logs to show that the people called into the police on the days of the swells, and that their children could not be dropped off where they needed to be because the bus could not get down the road. That's a concern for me. I do not remember our police or fire chief in this last go-around when it was voted to change the parking ordinance to do any due diligence about the safety of our children. But now we have the police chief come and stand here and talk about another road from another motion and automatically gets changed to no parking.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right, anybody else? Stanley?
Stan Wojciechowski, 1044 West Neck Road. I think it's just, it's almost a no-brainer. You must know what you have, a whole road. No political decision on what we do and don't do. You survey every right-of-way totally, so you know exactly where you stand. That's the professional way to go. Justice for all, the professional way to go. Survey it completely, so now everyone knows where they're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Okay, so we are on, so we made the amendment. That was approved. Wait, did we vote on it? We didn't. Right, okay, we didn't vote on it yet. Everyone ready to vote? On the, so this is for, yeah, the amendment. And then will we vote again on the main motion this time, James, or just the amendment?
I think if you have the amendment, covers it all.
Okay. All right, so this will be the full vote. Any other comments from the council or thoughts before we vote?
Well, I just want to say that, I mean, that area down in Point Jewett is Pilgrim Conant, and it's been a destination. It's been a generational destination. We're trying to make it safe, okay? We're trying to get the traffic on the right-of-way, so it's out of the road, so the bus can come down the road. This is what they complained about putting parking there. Now we're trying to resolve it. We're trying to make it more safe, and they're still not happy. So, I mean, they're okay when the surfers were down there and there are no parking signs up. But now there's a lot of people down there who have a problem with legal parking down there. And, I mean, again, these are generational destinations, access points that we manage. And we need to defend them. Thank you.
All right, anybody else? All right, so just to reiterate, so this is to direct the town's manager to get pricing, a surveyor and pricing. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
All right, motion approved 4-1. And do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.